welcome back to another episode of 5 Minutes with Jesus and Jesse. We are going to continue on with my testimony and pick up where we left off. So if you have not watched episode 1, 2, or 3, you might want to do that, but it's not necessarily a prerequisite. So I had my children, and we were very hit or miss about attending church when my kids were toddlers and infants. I really wanted to go, and I really, really wanted my husband to go with me. I think that there's such a stigma around attending church alone, and to be honest, I was not brave enough to do it by myself. I wasn't brave enough to walk into a place where I may or may not have known anybody, to sit by myself, to figure out where I'm supposed to take my kids. Is there even a kids' church, etc., etc. So I just wasn't brave enough to do it. And so the few weekends that I could get Derek to go with me, we would go, and I loved it. And we were going to a very small country church with this pastor that we just adored and we really connected with. And unfortunately he left, so we really stopped kind of going. So this went on for several years, and in the meantime, I met someone at work who single-handedly turned my life back to Christ, and that is my friend Joni. And we all need a Joni in our lives, because this girl, she's a force to be reckoned with, and she was bold and she was steadfast and just unashamed to be herself and to show others who God was. And that's anyone and everyone. And she went quickly from a work colleague to a friend to a spiritual mother to a mentor to a sister in Christ. And now, honestly, Joni and I still talk very frequently, and she knows me better than 90% of any of my friends. She knows my thoughts, she knows my deepest fears, she knows everything. And it was really through my friendship with Joni that I started to pursue a relationship with God. And this relationship was different than anything that I had experienced up to this point, because it was tangible, it was actionable, it was an actual communicative relationship with God, instead of just having these prayers spoken to God in a time of crisis or in a time of need, or it was actually just a relationship. And this is really when I started reading and studying my Bible. I started journaling. I started going to local Bible studies. I started going to a different church that I went to a little bit more frequently, that my kids really enjoyed the children's church there. And I was honestly just trying to find a place that I could fit in. And the season of my life, really up until the last few years, I had been towing the line. I was convinced that I could have my faith and still do all the things of the world. And having intentions but no actions really gets you nowhere. And honestly, that's where I was. I wanted to go to church regularly and get plugged in, and I wanted to be involved in Bible studies, and I wanted to keep growing closer to God. But what I was doing was nothing that was going to make any of those things tangible to me. I was thinking about this earlier, and it's kind of like planning a vacation. It's I really want to go to Italy, but I've never actually researched Italy or looked at flights or started saving money or picked out where I want to go to and how I would plan my whole trip. And I didn't do anything actionable. I just said, I really want to go to Italy. And that's kind of how I was treating my relationship with God all these years, was I want to get closer to God. And that was that. There was nothing happening that was actually actionable that was going to bring me closer to God. I started attending the church that I went to now, and it was immediately different. This church was a startup, and it was a transplant, a branch of a church coming to our small town. And I immediately felt connected and drawn to this church. One, I had a lot of friends that were going there that were begging me to come. And I loved the preacher. I loved the people. I really loved everything about it. And so I started asking Derek if he would come with me. And we would go. If we had nothing else going on, we would go, and it was fine. But eventually that just wasn't enough. if it was so important for me, for my kids to know God, then how can I say that is the most important thing, but yet I'm waiting on somebody else's actions to make that happen? And I finally said, you know what? It sucks going alone, but I will take all of those uncomfortable things and just go anyways. So that's what I did. I started going anyways. I brought my kids along with me, and shortly after I started serving in the church and just getting connected and plugged in. I was teaching in children's church, and I was asked to lead the women's ministry, which I'm still leading. And, through this, my oldest son, Crew, actually accepted Christ and was baptized last year. And my youngest son has been begging to make the same profession of faith. And so I'm sure that will come soon. But none of that would have been possible if my intentions never turned to action. And you may very well be that someone who is waiting and hoping and wishing and praying that your spouse or your best friend or your mom would come to church with you. And if they would, then you'd go. But let me tell you, if they don't go, go anyway. Just go anyway. Go scared, go awkwardly, go uncomfortably, go with the intention of, I need to put actions to this if I really want a closer relationship with God. And if your best friend or your spouse or your mom doesn't go, there's a seat for you by me. And honestly, you'll find that someone needs that seat. And as hard as it is to go anyways when you're alone, you'll find community there. If that's what you're looking for, you'll find community there. And you'll realize it's not as scary as you thought it was going to be. It turns into the norm, and that's fine. And I can't tell you enough just to go anyway.